All right, welcome back to the NFL Combine in Indianapolis. Chris Brown, Steve Tasker with you on a Friday here with our Combine coverage, One Bills Live. Pleased to be joined now by ESPN draft analyst and insider Matt Mauler. Thanks for swinging by, man. I know you got a busy week, so appreciate you giving us some time.
Always make time for the Buffalo Bills. Being from Kansas City, I feel like I'm like the goodwill ambassador for Kansas City to come on and be
like. Is that
like,
where you grew up?
I grew up south of there, yeah. So
he's a Kansas guy.
Southern Missouri for me, Southwest Missouri, but
nice.
We're not all bad in Kansas City, I promise.
Oh no, we get it. We get it. It's all good. It's all
been
good.
A great rivalry, and
I love it.
It's going to remain a hot rivalry for the foreseeable future. It's good.
Yeah, it's good. That's what the NFL needs. You need your Brady Manning. You need your Marino Elway.
Yeah.
Or Kelly Marino.
Yeah. Absolutely. You got me all excited with your dream pick for the Bills. I know you even stated you're not 100% sure he's going to get down to 27, but I love me some Jordan Addison. Because I see him as a 3-level receiver,
Absolutely.
And there don't seem to be a whole lot of those kinds of receivers in this draft class. Would you agree?
I would agree with that there are a lot of fast receivers in this class, but there are not, as you mentioned, 3-level players. There are not route runners like Jordan Addison. Now, realistically, he will not be there at 27, barring some shocking change. But teams can trade picks. You can get up. We've seen you guys do that in the past. Sure. Not always, the motive of the front office, but I think he would open the offense up to such a degree. And you always have to be thinking about the way the NFL is now with wide receivers. You always have to be looking for that next guy because you never know. You're one locker room blow up away from a guy trying to get out of town.
Well,
so you
got to look for cheap labor too these days.
Also that.
And the Bills really, this draft as receivers, there's always, and we hear it all the time, the players come in here and they almost talk teams out of drafting them. I mean, that's really what this is about.
Absolutely. The interview process here is as important as anything we'll see on the field, right? Because, and it is, you're selling yourself to the teams almost of, hey, this is why I'm trustworthy. This is why I'm a hard worker. This is why I'm a guy that you should build your team around. So Jordan Addison checks all those boxes. And again, looking at ways to open this offense up. How do you get over the hump? How do you beat Cincinnati? How do you beat Kansas City in the postseason? That short of finding a great offensive guard in the first round, which I don't know that player exists this year, I think that's where you have to get creative and like, hey, let's just go score some points.
I think a lot of Bills fans, and I don't know if other fans around the league are like this, but Bills fans, I don't want to say it's an obsession, but they talk more about offensive linemen than most NFL fan bases, and I think they desperately want one on the interior. There's no secret from a sheer numbers perspective with 4 free agents on the offensive line this offseason that they have to replenish the numbers just because you got to have bodies to line up. But I think there is a healthy amount of the fan base that wants to see the Bills address the offensive line early. I know you mocked recently Cody Mauch to the Bills at 27.
Yeah.
What is the most appealing thing about him, number one? And then number two, Bills love position flex, and this kid comes to the Senior Bowl and says, oh, you want to line me up at center? Go ahead. I've never played there, but yeah, sure, let's do it.
Yeah, that's what I love. I mean, I think the first line of my notes on his tape is he's an ass kicker, so I hope I can say that.
That's fine.
I mean,
he just did. It's fine.
He's a mauler, right?
Yeah.
He's mean. He's aggressive.
Right.
And sometimes players are mean and aggressive, and they're out of control. He's not. It's a controlled violence, really, with his game. And as you mentioned, he could play left tackle. He could play guard. He played center in Mobile. So I think he's a guard to me. Put him inside with the way that he can just boost the run game to bring, playing offensive guards like being in a fist fight in a phone booth, and he's equipped for that. So I think he is that type of a tone setter a little bit. Now, his stock has probably gone down a little bit since the last mock draft we did right off the Senior Bowl where everyone was excited about him. So I would throw out the name Darnell Wright from Tennessee as a right tackle. I mean, he's played left tackle. He's played guard. But right tackle last year, we saw his stock go from early day 3 to late round 1. He just really improved as a player. So I think he's an ascending prospect that would definitely solve some of those problems.
Is he right tackle?
I think
for
right
the
tackle,
NFL or guard?
I think right tackle. The length is there. The power is definitely there.
Feet
are there. And I think the hand power is there.
And then the recency bias we all have because you see that the season end. And it's in the recent past, it's been Kansas City this, Kansas City that, and Rams as well. it's an offensive league.
It is, yeah. Mike McCarthy doesn't want to believe it, right? But
Right.
it's an offensive league. So, yeah, I do think you're always looking to, especially in the AFC. You do have Cincinnati. You do have Kansas City. You've got other teams that are up and coming.
Buffalo,
You've got to score.
LA. Yeah.
I mean,
you got to score points.
If you want to beat Buffalo, you're going to score 42 points if you're trying to win that game, it feels like. So I think we are going to see, last year it was everyone loaded up on wide receivers. A.J. Brown gets traded. Tyreek Hill gets traded. Devontae Adams gets traded. This year our correction could be, hey, offensive line is where we got to get better. And this draft class is not incredibly deep on the interior. So I think we could see teams overdraft a little bit late first round, those contenders, to try to get over that hump.
The Bills need to replenish numbers at the safety position as well. Mm-hmm. We're getting kind of mixed opinions on the safety class, like not a lot of great guys. I know some people are mixed on the Branch kid from Alabama. Is he a slot corner or is he a safety?
Right.
Is he both? So if he's not in the safety class, that obviously hurts the safety class. I know the Brown kid from Penn State is a popular guy that a lot of people like. Beyond those two, though, does it get thin in a hurry?
It does. Antonio Johnson from Texas A&M fits in that. Not with Branch, who you made a great point. Some people think he's a corner. Some think he's a safety.
Yeah.
Some think he's a nickel. It's a lot like Daxton Hill last year coming out of Michigan, who was picked 31 in the draft. Branch will probably go earlier than that. But it is a thin safety group. I think you're looking at guys who – I'm a big fan of Christopher Smith from Georgia.
I like him,
but
too.
he's undersized.
Yeah, he's
but
at
he
188.
plays big. It's like watching Bob Sanders out there all over again. So
right.
I'd like Chris Smith is someone who probably going to be a third-round pick. Maybe round 2. We'll see how well he does here. But I see a starter there. And I think that's the beauty of the safety position is you don't have to draft these guys in the first round. You can find those day 2.
So you can find maybe a guy that could be starting caliber, maybe if not right away, maybe by the back half of his rookie season, like in round 3 and 4, you could still find that?
I do think so. But you're probably going to find, sorry, Steve, you're probably going to be like a little bit trait deficient.
Yeah.
It might be a guy who runs a 4.5 instead of a 4.4, or he might be 5'10 instead of 6 foot. But their play says, hey, I'm a starter in the NFL.
At the top of this draft, it always happens, the money position, the edge rushers, the quarterbacks, corners, and left tackles. How's that, the quarterback group, where you've got a handful of guys who may or may not be, the overdraft. You're going to have, one of your drafts, you've got the Colts jumping up to get the Bears pick.
Yeah.
All of that's on the table for all of these teams because everybody's going to listen.
Yeah.
How do you think the money picks, the edge rushers and quarterbacks are going to affect the top of the draft?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to go early. I mean, 4 quarterbacks in the top 10 feels like a lock at this point.
Really?
Yeah, and I think, we're going to see a handful of pass rushers as well. Will
Right.
Anderson's going to go really early. Tyree Wilson's going to go very early from Texas Tech. Jalen Carter's still going to go very early.
He's still going to go early.
He's still going to go
whatever
early.
you say.
Yeah, and Lucas Van Ness from Iowa continues to climb. He's going to go early. So I think it's, it's good news for Bills fans. You don't need a quarterback. Yours is pretty good. So you want more quarterbacks to go early, push down better position players. But I think we will see a run on edge rushers. We'll see a run on corners. So I think that, by the time you get to 27, your hope is somebody has slipped through the cracks.
I don't think Tremaine Edmonds is going to fit in a price range where the Bills are going to be able to retain him. I think the demand for his services by 31 other clubs is just going to shoot his number through the roof, whether that's right, wrong, or indifferent. So with that in mind, I'm like scanning through these linebacker prospects, and there are a handful that are appealing to me. The thing that I keep coming back to, though, is natural instincts where they are an anticipatory player, not a reactive player, and it seems like they are becoming harder and harder to find.
They are, especially at linebacker. It is. You're right. Because in college, so many of these guys are just fast, so they don't have to have instincts because they can be a half a second late reading the play, but they're so fast that they make up for it. So, I struggle with that too. I think Drew Sanders from Arkansas, if you're trying to replace Edmonds, is that player who has
because he's just
big,
as long, right?
6'5", incredible length. He was at Alabama, transferred to Arkansas, became a captain, became a leader. I think he had several sacks this year, 3 forced fumbles, a pick, led the team in tackles, almost led the country in tackles. So he has that production. He has the instincts, I think.
So let me ask you this about him specifically. First, what's the range where people think he's coming off the board? 2, some people believe he might be a better fit as like a 3-4 outside linebacker rusher because they like his rushing ability almost more than sitting him in a middle linebacker spot in a 4-3. Is there a general consensus on best fit for defensive scheme, and where do you think he's coming off the board?
Where he comes off the board is probably early round 2, even though, I mean, his workouts last night were really impressive.
Yeah.
So you like that. And we talked about that. It's a weak class this year, so he could get pushed up a little bit. I think you could definitely play him on the outside, and I think he would be just fine. It would take some development would be the key. So,
okay.
Almost in a sense like Micah Parsons, where he came in, he's a linebacker, but you saw some rush potential, and they started pushing him that direction. Drew probably doesn't have that upside, but it's a similar situation at least.
Yeah. After you get by the quarterbacks, how many guys are there in the top of this draft through the first or halfway through the second or maybe further that you think are day one guys in the NFL?
Yeah, not many. Just to be honest, it is a weaker class when you talk about how many guys are going to be day one starters. I think it's more developmental this year, and it's surprising because we do have a lot of 5th and 6th year players because of the COVID year that people took, or because guys are staying in college an extra year now because of NIL money. So those things have affected this class. I do think at receiver, at corner, at tight end, you can get starters in round 2. The other positions, obviously running back, you can get starters everywhere, but some of the other positions, offensive guard, offensive tackle are pretty weak in the 2nd and 3rd rounds. And then I do think defensive tackle is way, way down this year.
Tier for me, if you could, the receiver class, at least with the first couple of tiers, only because Steve and I believe the value is going to be there for interior O-line in round 1 for Buffalo at 27. That might be more like a sure thing than, say, the receiver class where there seems to be a lot of mixed opinions. So let's go under the assumption that the Bills go interior O-line round 1, and from what we've heard, that first tier of receivers is down there at the end of round 1, early round 2. Where is the second tier?
Probably late 2nd, early 3rd. I just feel like there's such
a next round
drop.
down.
Yeah, I mean it's significant. So,
well, that's not bad because the Bills are picking late in round 2, so that might work.
And I think, Chris, it's how many receivers go in the first round? If a player like Zay Flowers slips to round 2, well, he's going to go early round 2 if he slips. Same with Jalen Hyatt from Tennessee. If he slips, it's going to be early round 2. So I think that's where that drop-off comes. From maybe the first 6 receivers who will be top 40 picks. After that, it's like you're really starting to reach for players. And then you get into the late 2nd round of guys like Cedric Tillman from Tennessee or Rashee Rice from SMU, Josh Downs from North Carolina.
Yep.
You start to find some of those guys who maybe they're short, maybe they're a little bit slow, but can still be good players.
Okay. What about the much ballyhooed tight end class? I know Dalton Kincaid is kind of like everybody's top guy because he can give you at least a little something in the blocking game, and then he runs like a deer out there. Do we think we're getting to a point where teams are becoming more and more conscious, and I guess Mike Gesicki is the perfect deterrent for this. Gesicki was franchised on a team that didn't want to use him because he would be too much of a tell for the defense. Like, we're throwing here. We got a tight end on the field, but he's not blocking. And, we talked to Brandon Beane earlier this week. We've talked to a couple other GMs. And there seems to be a genuine concern about, we love the pass-catching traits of the tight end, but when we put him on the field, is he just like putting another receiver out there and we're running 10 personnel? You know what I mean? So there's not a tight end in this class that is elite at everything, and they're hard to find anyway. But is there a line to be drawn in the tight end class where you say, I want a guy that can at least give the threat of blocking in 12 personnel and maybe bring that third linebacker on the field instead of that team saying, you're throwing, we're sitting in nickel.
Yeah, no, there are those guys. Michael Mayer from Notre Dame is that guy. He's your classic inline, good blocker, very good receiver of the middle. If you want the disguise ability in your personnel packages, you draft Darnell Washington from Georgia, who's 6'7", 270 pounds, and is the best run blocking
tight end. He's bigger than your left tackle.
And he might be a better run blocker. But he's also, but he moves.
Yeah, he does move.
You're not just drafting, a blocker only. So I think he is the player that, if you really want to get creative, and you guys have a great tight end in Dawson Knox, but if you want to get creative, Darnell Washington's the guy where the defense has no idea what you're doing when you put him on the field.
Yeah.
Well, thanks very much, Matt. We appreciate you spending some time with us. We know you got a busy week here, so thanks for carving out a little bit for us. I feel smarter having talked to you, so thanks very much. We'll look forward to more of your work on ESPN.com as we get closer and closer to the draft. You got mocks coming up, I'm sure, right?
Mocks coming up, big boards coming up. It's that time of year, so there's something new every day.
Love it.
Thanks, Matt. We appreciate it.